Okay, yeah, sorry about the lighting situation. The videos in the future will definitely be better because I'll use my actual camera instead of my phone. But this is what we're working with right now. I don't know how many times I've tried to make this video. By the way, my name is Raquel. If you're new to the channel, man, I hate saying that. Yeah, subscribe, follow, whatever you want to do. But basically, I've tried many times to make this video, and I don't even know how to tell the story, honestly. But it's basically about me having a brain mass, getting surgery on it, getting it removed, and what my life has been like since. I guess like the purpose of this video was to, one, put out information to others. What I specifically had was a cavernoma, or a cavernous malformation. You could call it a benign tumor. You'll hear people debate about the naming it of a tumor. Whatever. It's not cancerous. But when I found out I had my cavernoma, there was nothing that I could really find on the internet about other people's experiences. So I thought it would be nice to post a video for somebody who maybe has one or is planning on getting surgery or is debating about it. I don't know. By the way, I'm gonna be eating because I'm starving. I really wish that this stupid light wasn't right there. But yeah. And then the second reason is just to talk about and maybe raise awareness to other people about, I guess, brain injuries, surgeries. That's my dog, by the way, Luna. Hi, Luna. Hey, puppy. Yeah, because it's honestly like it is quite a struggle sometimes. And I know that it's easy to just assume that people who've had those issues are just fine, and but yeah, I don't know where I'm going with that. I don't know. You'll see in the video, okay? So let's get started. So we're gonna start with just like as brief as I could make it, what my symptoms were leading up to my diagnosis of getting a cavernoma. And basically, on the short end of the story, I can go more into details in a different video, I suppose. But short story is I basically my entire life have had migraines behind my right eye. And I just assumed it was normal because my dad gets migraines, my sister gets headaches. Actually, more specifically, my dad gets a lot of tension headaches. My sister kind of gets migraines, headaches. I know she'd gotten hers checked out when she was younger and nothing came of it. So I just was like, well, I guess I just have a family of people who have headaches. And it wasn't until really like the 2 years leading up to my diagnosis that things, I think, started to progress to a level where I started worrying about it. I'm pretty in tune with my body, so like when things start to just like not be as it was, I definitely take notice. Which is unfortunate because it has led to, you know, like basically during that 2 years, I was told a lot that I was being like a hypochondriac and hyperchondriac. And so it made me question a lot of the time whether it was just kind of like all in my head. Turns out it was literally. But basically it was, and this is why symptoms of slow growing brain tumors or like cavernomas can be hard to spot because the symptoms come on very gradually sometimes, until they get severe enough, which was in my case where you end up at the hospital. So Mine, I started noticing in my classes I was having a hard time comprehending things that weren't hands-on. And it's hard, obviously in hindsight, like it's easy to see that that was an issue. It felt like an issue to me, but to me, I just kept equating it to like maybe I'm just not smart. I graduated with a clinical lab science degree, and it's not an easy degree. It's a lot of science, and it's a lot of high level science, and things that weren't hands on to me were very difficult for me to grasp. And a lot of the times, it was even just like when people would talk to me, I would just have a hard time like processing when people spoke to me. So I was just like, I don't know, I kind of just like put it down to being like, okay, maybe I'm just like a little airheaded, or I just get distracted really easily. And so it kind of started with that, and then that just kind of like kept progressing. My migraines were going up in frequency. I was taking ibuprofen probably like 2 to 5 days of the week. And generally, like, my way of fixing my migraines is as soon as I felt them coming on, I would take liquid gel ibuprofen. That was like the only thing that helped, and I would have to take it as soon as I felt the migraine going on, because if I waited, like, nothing would work. And then my most severe symptom, well, not most severe, but that then led into just like being very depressed all the time, not having any motivation to do anything, and then that led into oh gosh, this is a current symptom. Yeah, and I'm not going to be editing this video. I understand that it's like annoying to have to sit here and watch like me mumble and me like have to figure out what I'm going to say, but I think this is actually the most important part of a symptom that's very noticeable, which just makes it seem like I'm really bad at telling stories, which I am, obviously. But I have a hard time with tracking, which is like I'll be in the middle of saying something and then I just lose what it is I'm saying, which some people have learned to just keep the patience with, and some people are just like, that's how you've always been, you suck at telling stories, which, yes, but I have also had this brain tumor my entire life, so right, so I'm not going to be editing this video to be any faster, in case you're wondering. I forgot what I was saying. I know we're talking about brains. We were talking about brains, Raquel. We were talking about brains. Brains, talking about brains, talking about pausing, talking about you sucking at telling stories. Stories. Where are we going? Where are we going? Right. That's why I'm not editing the video, so you can see what it's like. For someone who seems, for the most part, normal. I'm a scientist, like, I have average intelligence, it's on paper, but there are things that I struggle with on a day-to-day basis, and here you go. So the symptoms, that's right, symptoms. So we progressed from the migraines frequency, not being able to concentrate. Then it was kind of leading into like this weird like irritability kind of thing. And then one day I was so like, I went to bed and I wasn't thinking about anything in particular. And I all of a sudden just my heart rate increased for no reason. And I thought to myself, like, am I like having a panic attack? Is that what's happening? And so I got my husband and I was like, I just need you to sit with me for a little bit just to make sure like nothing weird happens. And yeah, and then I ended up like after a little bit, I ended up going to the bathroom, and this is not like a TMI. I was just like sitting on the toilet, but I kept looking at my arms, and every time I kept looking at my right arm, I was like, I know, like the logical part of me was like, I know it's my arm, but it doesn't feel like my arm, or it doesn't really look like my arm. There's a medical term for that. I can't think of it right now. It was written somewhere in my paper, but yeah, and so that was really weird, and I just felt like, wow, school must be really stressing you out. You need to like take a break. And after that, I basically had like a meltdown, debated quitting school, and luckily my husband's really awesome and was very supportive, and he was like, you know, there's only like 2 weeks left of the semester. He's like, if at the end of winter break like you still feel this way, he's like, let's talk about it then. So but I ended up going through winter break. I felt better. I was still having my migraines, but I felt better. Like I felt like I was having more energy. So, oh, that was another thing. I slept all the time. And this is ever since I was a kid. I mean, I constantly slept. Like 12 hours wasn't enough. And there were like times where I would actually Google like if I had narcolepsy, because I would just sleep all the time. Like I would need at least 12 hours of sleep, and I would probably sleep 2 to 4 hours like nap time during the day. Maybe not all at once. I would take like a 2 hour, then another 2 hour, or like an hour and then an hour. It was just, I was sleeping all the time. And then, but that to me was like, that was normal. That was my baseline. Like that's how I'd been since I was a kid. And then I, started my semester, was doing pretty well in school, still getting the migraines. There were times, the classes that I was taking weren't all necessarily hands-on, but they were things that I had a lot of like prior experience with. And so it was a little easier for me to like grasp, because I could put a tangible thing with it. But I still struggled. Like I think I was taking blood banking, which that is a lot of hands-on in the lab, but the class part of it I was having a hard time with. So I think I pulled out like a C in that class, maybe a B, I can't remember. And then we went to, and then I noticed, I know this is kind of long, I'm sorry. When I would go to bed at night, if I would like turn my head in bed, I would notice that I was getting like a little bit of vertigo, like the room would spin a little bit every time I turned my head like quickly, which was like not something that I had ever experienced before. And I was doing like jiu-jitsu at the time. Like I was a very active person, like ran almost every single day, was going to jiu-jitsu maybe 3-4 times a week. So you're doing a lot of tumbling and stuff, and like vertigo's never been an issue for me. And we went to an amusement park, I think maybe like 2 weeks after that. And I remember getting off the rides feeling like very sick. Like I was like, I'm feeling very dizzy. I don't want to go on anymore, which I live in Florida. I've been to plenty of amusement parks. They've never been an issue for me. This time it was an issue. about a week after the amusement park visit, I woke up at, I think, around 6 a.m. in the morning. I could feel a migraine coming on, which to me was like very common. It just happens sometimes. So I woke my husband up. I was like, hey, go grab some ibuprofen. I will mention this. The night before that, when I was going to bed, I felt like I was getting this like tugging sensation down here on my lips. And it's odd because my mass was on the front right side of my head. It was in the frontal lobe region. And usually when things are in your head, they affect the opposite side of your body because that's just how your brain works. But for some reason, I feel like the tugging was occurring more on the right side. And it was the same thing with my right arm. I don't know why. That's just how it was. Hold up. I got to answer a phone call. I can't exactly remember where I left off, but I knew it had something to do with, I was having dizzy spells, whatever. Oh, right. So, this is the day that it happened. So yeah, the night before I felt like a little bit of tugging in my mouth, but I was just like, yeah, it's probably just like your imagination. So went to sleep, woke up at about 6 a.m., felt the migraine coming on, so I got some ibuprofen, went back to sleep. Next thing I know, I wake up and I'm in the back of an ambulance, like more than halfway to the place that I work. And I remember waking up and I remember looking at the paramedic and I was like, what's going on? And he was like, you had a seizure. And I was like, okay, where's my husband? Oh, that was like, how long did it last? And he was like, about 30 seconds. And I said, okay, where's my husband? He said, like, I was, it's funny the way that consciousness works, because this really messed with my head, because apparently I had been talking and was conscious before this. But when I actually became conscious, I was like so aware. So I don't know how that works. I would be like so interested to like learn more about that. But when I was aware, I was like aware. I was hyper aware. So I was like, how long did my seizure last? I only know these questions because I was in the health field, but like, he was like 30 seconds. I'm like, where's my husband? He's like, he's in the car behind us. He's following us. And I was like, okay. And then I immediately turned around and was looking at my heart monitor and stuff. My heart rate was at like 140. And I was like, what the frick? And he was like, you, and I remember like this paramedic, I to this day, I'm so mad because I need to go thank this dude. And I know it probably doesn't seem like a lot to him, but this was like the right guy for the job. I just remember he had very blue eyes. He was probably like my dad's age, and he just like grabbed, oh no. He just looked at me and he was like, he like rested his hand on my leg and he was like, you need to just take this one step at a time. He was like, we're on our way to the hospital. And I made sure that we were going to the hospital I work at, not the other hospital in town. I'm not going to go into detail on that, but, and then I was like, okay. And then I just remember asking if he could hold my hand. And he did, and it was, it was nice. And then after that, the day kind of goes in like weird, like fade in and outs. Whether that was because I was like post-ictal, which is like post-seizure, or if it was just, there was just so much going on that it's hard to really recall all of the information, I'm not sure. But I remember, I feel like I briefly remember getting checked into the room. Like when they wheel you into the ER, like you're like wheeled in and you like chill at the front desk first, at the desk, like on the bed, and then they put you into a room. And I feel like I remember that, kind of. Got into the room, my husband got there, and the thing is, like, I think we were both very calm about what was going on because we didn't know what was going on. I don't know. I couldn't even fathom like the reason why I would have a seizure. It just didn't make any sense to me. I was vegan, so I remember calling when I had finally was able to get a hold of my dad. Both of my parents were out of state. My dad is a paramedic, firefighter. And I remember finally getting hold of him, and he was like, talking about it, maybe being my electrolytes and stuff. And I was like, well, hope you're right. That would be nice. Just give me some pills and I'll be fine. And then I remember going to get my CT scan, and I got that done, came back to the room. Actually, I think I got x-rays first, then I got a CT, and then I got back to the room, and I remember the doctor coming in. I don't even really remember what this doctor looked like, but I just remember him coming in. I think he was blonde. I think I remember, because he was younger. I think he was a resident. And I remember he was like, okay. He was like, so we found something. And at this point, I was like, it's a glioblastoma. I probably have like 4 months to live. I'm going to die. My head just like immediately went to the worst case scenario. He was like, but we need to do an MRI to get a better idea of what you got. And I was like, I remember just looking at him and I was like, man, just give it to me straight. I was like, do I have a glioblastoma? Like, is that what's going on here? And I just remember the look. He like hesitated. And then he was like, we need to get the MRI. It was a quick hesitation though. And I don't know if I noticed it because I'm so used to like seeing interactions between like medical people, or maybe he was just surprised at the question, but I just remember the hesitation. And I'm pretty sure his hesitation was just because of the size of it, because cavernomas are not usually as big as mine was. But he did hesitate. But yeah, so he's like, we got to get the MRI done. So then he leaves, and at this point, I think it was my husband, me, and then my sister-in-law and my mother-in-law. And my mother-in-law has had a similar experience, and I remember like not freaking out about it. I just remember being like, okay, like, yeah, this is really weird. And I remember my mother-in-law saying to me, she was like, you just gotta take it one step at a time. She's like, don't worry about something unless there's something to worry about. She's like, let's just take it one step at a time. So I'm like, you're right, okay. And after that, like, I don't know, we were just weirdly calm about it. I don't know why. But when I got the MRI, I remember the MRI was just terrifying for me. Like, cancer for me is just absolutely terrifying because I have had multiple family members die of cancer. I had several mentors die of cancer. Like, cancer is just like this weird looming thing in the back of my head where I'm just like convinced that I will probably get it. Don't know. That's just like my thing. And so I was like kind of convinced like that's what it was going to end up being, but at the same time I was just like, we have no idea, so don't get ahead of yourself. But yeah, I was terrified the whole time I was getting the MRI done. And it's also like not a pleasant experience. I mean, especially when they have to scan your head, because they like put your face in a cage and it's like very close to your face, and you can't move. I'm not claustrophobic though, so that wasn't an issue. So yeah, got that done, went back to the room, and then it was just like the coolest surgeon experience that I would imagine anybody would probably get. I remember meeting my surgeon. I'm not going to say his name just for privacy reasons. But I remember him walking in, and he was just like the happiest looking dude ever, and he was like, great news, you got a cavernoma. He was like, yours is textbook, not an issue. And then he was basically like, here's your two options. By the way, not to mention, probably about 30 minutes after I was admitted to the hospital, I had a second seizure. The first one I had was tonic-clonic. I was unconscious. I had no idea it happened. It happened while I was sleeping. The second one that I had while I was at the hospital was just my face. And I like remember, like, I was still like conscious. I knew what was happening around me, but I couldn't respond because my mouth kept opening and closing and my eyebrows kept like doing this. That was like a focal or a partial seizure. And that was the last one I've had. But yeah, so I remember the surgeon coming in. He was like, not a problem. He was like, we got this. He's like, we're going to put you on some seizure meds to make sure that doesn't happen again. And then he was like, here's your two options. He was like, we can put you on seizure meds and we can monitor the situation. He was like, or we can do surgery and cut it out. And I was like, cut it out. There was like no hesitation. I was immediately like, cut it out. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to ever have a seizure again. There was more to like the conversation that was just like the quick version, although it was a pretty quick meeting, to be honest. He had kind of like, when he gave his presentation, he was like, the location, you know, is a right frontal lobe. It was pretty close to the surface. He was like, that's like a very easy area to do surgery on as far as brain surgery goes. And because my cavernoma had bled, that's what had caused the seizure in the first place. It had shown evidence of having like bleeds beforehand, just not one this big. And it's hard to say that they necessarily bleed. They more kind of just like ooze because they're not connected to main vessels. They are smaller vessels, capillaries, slow flowing blood. So they just kind of ooze, but mine had oozed quite a bit. And it also had a nice iron, I think it's called like hemosiderin ring. I'm pretty sure I'm saying that right. So yeah, that's basically just like iron, calcium deposits that surrounded it as well. And I think there was a little calcification. Not sure on that though. I could maybe find a picture and put it in there for you, because like it is massive. Like it was the size of a golf ball, if not maybe a little bigger. It was 3.5 centimeters. It is a little popcorn shaped, so it's not a perfect circle, but and they're usually the size of a raspberry, so that just like gives you a little perspective. But he was like, yeah, he was like, it's not gonna be a problem, and he was like, I am the guy for the job. So I was like, yeah, sure. I'm like, yeah, cut it out, let's do it. And I don't know, I was riding some like weird high for like a day, being able to go home and just try to like absorb everything that had happened. It didn't hit me until I needed to go to bed that night. And that pretty much was like the start of like the worst month of my entire life, because I had to wait a month for surgery. And I was like, does it have to be a month? And he was like, if you want my team at its peak, he was like, it's a month. And I was like, okay. I was like, I mean, you know what you're doing. You're the expert. So, he was also the chief of peds neuro. So, because it's generally a pediatric issue, which is funny because when I joined the Facebook group, all adults, not a single kid, all adults, and generally all my age or older. So like right about 30 and older. I'm currently almost 27. And most of them are not in the United States. Everyone that I've been hearing about is like in Australia and in the UK. So it was interesting to see like the population. But yeah, so he was a guy, he was very confident. I was confident in his confidence. He had said there was going to be like, if at all, very minimal side effects. So I was like, cool, all about that. And I guess next time we'll talk about my terrible nightmare of a month, and then surgery and post-surgery side effects, because I can't make this video like an hour long. But thanks for listening. And yeah, cool. Bye.